Operation Hope has begun, and it's very, very simple. It's us collaborating, meaning us, the host of TYT, and you guys at home, the community, working together to come up with plans together, collaborate together, and then to execute those plans in the real world and in social media. So I'm gonna explain the mechanics of how we're going to do that. It's very simple. It's on the main page of our home site right now, tyt.com. And it's at this point just a discussion board where we start the ideas, okay? And then we will start to begin to do those ideas in the real world together. But I put up a blog post about the first project we want to do together, paid family leave, and trying to get that passed from the outside. So please check that out. And I'm going to jump back into the discussion and start to organize as I have already a little bit. And so you guys know that we do the show 6 to 8 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. Eastern, of course, right here on youtube.com/theyoungturks and tyt.com/live. So we're gonna do our regular show today and on Monday. I'm sorry, on Tuesday. At the end of our regular show at 8 o'clock today, I'm gonna do a book reading. Tomorrow, I'm going to do Operation Hope and explain more fully what it is. I'm gonna show you an interview with Ro Khanna that begins to explain how we can make a difference in the world. And the whole idea is an audacious idea that us together, the TYT hosts and you guys, can make a difference in the world. And I believe that with every fiber of my being, and we're gonna prove it together. So that begins now. So now, in terms of the presidential campaign, that actually does not have to do with Operation Hope. It just happens to coincide at this time. Now, is it a campaign yet? No. Am I very seriously considering it? Yes. Have I done some work behind the scenes to effectuate it? Yes, I have. Okay. Does that mean I've made a final decision on it? No. It depends on some of those things that are afoot here to see if we can execute it and execute it properly in a way that we could actually win. So if you're wondering why in the world I would consider this, especially given the fact that I was not born in America, I'm a naturalized citizen, I'm gonna explain that for you. Let me just break this down real quick, and then I'm gonna ask you to participate in this decision throughout the week. So the reasons for potentially running are, by far and away, number one is I believe Joe Biden's going to lose. And now I believe a lot of people think that Joe Biden's going to lose, and we can get a better candidate, and it could be me, but it could also be any of the governors, Governor Whitmer, Governor Newsom, Governor Shapiro, Governor Beshear. These are all amazing Democratic governors, and they could all easily beat Donald Trump. And finally, I am not the only one saying that. Now we have a whole host of people, from Bill Maher to James Carville to even Joe Scarborough, David Ignatius at the Washington Post, and they're beginning to catch on to what I've been saying for some time now, which is Joe Biden was a hero for beating Donald Trump last time, but if he sticks around when he's 13 points lower than he was last time, and he barely won the Electoral College by 44,000 votes, he's going to be incredibly selfish, and he will unfortunately turn into the villain, the guy who gave away democracy just because he wanted a slightly better legacy of a second term. So in a sense, if I go in, I would be a proxy not just for myself and not just for progressives, but to bring in any other candidate so we can actually beat Donald Trump. And as I've told you guys many, many times on the Young Turks, that is the overwhelming number one goal. I believe Donald Trump is an actual fascist. I believe he tried to do a coup against America with this fake elector scheme. We've talked about it a lot. And I do not want to go quietly into that good night. And I do not want to run into that iceberg when I see the iceberg. So I'm going to do anything and everything possible to steer the ship away from the iceberg. So that is the overwhelming number one priority. But number two, since I'm a naturalized citizen, there is this mythology that you cannot run for president, and I'm sick of it. It is definitely wrong. It is constitutionally wrong. Case law proves that it is wrong definitively, but conventional wisdom persists. There's about 25 million naturalized citizens in America, and the very first thing we always hear is, "Ha, you can't run for president." Well, it's a way of alienating us and making us feel like, oh, you guys aren't as American as we are. And it's absurd. The Supreme Court has ruled it is absurd, and there's very clear case law about it. Not about running for president, but the fact that naturalized citizens have 100% identical rights as US born citizens. And that is because the Constitution was amended by the 5th and 14th Amendments. So if all I do was run in any campaign or anyone else, and they finally got the Supreme Court to say, of course they could run for president, as our previous case law shows, then that would be a great service to the country as well, I believe. And by the way, just really quick, Ted Lieu is a United States congressman. In fact, he's my congressman. His family came here from Taiwan when he was 3 years old. He's a colonel in the United States Air Force. Are we going to question his loyalty? We think he's more loyal to Taiwan. That's absurd. And in fact, the Supreme Court has said questioning people's loyalties like that is not only absurd, it's unconstitutional. I can give you countless examples. Patrick Bet-David, a show, a right-wing leaning show that I went on recently. He's the host of it. He's an Armenian Christian, immigrated during the Iranian Revolution. His family fled Iran. He then was served in the 101st Airborne. Is the idea that he's loyal to Iran instead of America? It's absurd. And again, it doesn't matter that it's absurd. It's unconstitutional, as the Supreme Court has ruled. So that would be another great reason to go in the race. But back to the main issue at hand, which is Trump and Biden and who's going to win this election. That is far, far more important than anything else. The third reason I'd run is to give you guys an honest, strong, progressive option. And so what do I mean by that? You know my strength. What I mean by that is I will do anything and everything to pass the laws that we care about. So I will not listen to congeniality or etiquette or any of that nonsense. There will be no talk of parliamentarians. And we will pass things like paid family leave, public option, higher minimum wage, etc. And number two, I'm honest. I'm not a regular politician. I don't really even want to do it. I love this job. This is the job I want to do. But for God's sake, isn't anyone going to argue for things that we all agree on? You've heard me, if you've watched Young Turks, say this 1,000 times. Paid family leave polls at 84%. What else do you need to fight for it, and to fight for it aggressively? So if it's someone like me, or perhaps literally me, I'm gonna fight like hell for you guys on incredibly popular positions. This should not be a novel concept, but unfortunately in American politics, it is. Everyone has their own agenda, no one has your agenda. So I will be honest, I will be strong, and yes, I'll be progressive. And if the mainstream media and others who usually savage progressives are concerned, oh my God, he might actually deliver for Americans and he's a progressive and not beholden to corporate rule, don't worry guys. If I get to 20 to 25%, every governor in the country is gonna come into this race, whether Joe Biden likes it or not. So everyone in Washington knows that, and that is another excellent reason to run. So, but having said all that, there are great difficulties, and we will talk about that in the upcoming week. And then, like I said, I might literally ask you to weigh in and maybe even decide. So stay tuned right here for that. And obviously an interesting week, an interesting circumstance we find ourselves in. But the most important point is Joe Biden has to win the race by 5 points. Any Democrat has to win the race by 5 points in order to win the Electoral College. And Joe Biden is nowhere near it and falling fast. So we have to act right now to get more Democratic candidates into the race, because we must defeat Trump.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.